guess there's only one. There's no lateral movement.
You can go ahead. Do you want to go ahead and bring out the witness and then go get the... You've got the defendant, you can bring him out. Great. And the witness is here too. Awesome. Let the record reflect the defendant's present with his attorney as well as counsel for the state. Are there any matters we need to address before we bring in the jury and the witness?
No, sir.
Not in that order.
Correct.
Mr. Cutler?
No, Your Honor.
Very well. If you'll bring in the witness, please.
Question.
All right, you can bring in the jury, please. All right. Welcome back. I see all members of the jury are present. Mr. Cutler, you may resume with your examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Reyes, I was talking to you when we took a break about your March 25th statement to the police. You remember that?
Yes.
Let me ask you this. At the time that you decided to talk to the police, you were aware that Jonathan and Israel had been arrested, correct?
Yes.
And you were aware that Jonathan had given a statement implicating you in the assault and the murder, correct? And in that March 25th interview, you told them, the police, that you went to pick up Jonathan and Israel because they wanted to go buy some weed, correct? Do you remember telling that?
Yes.
And let's be clear on
Okay,
which
wait.
day.
On January 4th of 2013, when you said Jonathan texted you or called you about going to buy some weed.
Yes.
And that y'all went, that you thought that's what you were going to do that night?
That's what I said on the first
interview, right?
Second interview.
Or the second interview, correct?
Yes,
And did you tell the police also that you dropped them off, you heard gunshots, and then they came running and got in the car? Do you remember that?
yes,
And do you remember telling them that you still didn't know that they didn't say anything, and you didn't know anybody had been shot? You remember telling them that?
yes,
and you took them home, and you didn't know anything about any murder until you saw it on the news. You remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, earlier I asked you, do you remember them asking you if you had made any other phone calls on January 4th, the night before the homicides?
Who asking me?
The police.
Police.
Because you said Jonathan had texted you, today you said Jonathan texted you that night.
Yes.
And you remember the police asking you if you had talked to anyone else that evening?
I don't I don't think I talked to nobody else.
And do you remember that's what you said that day? But do you remember shortly after that, your lawyer, Investigator Barefoot, stepping out of the room and speaking, and then your lawyer came back in the room, presumably talked to you, and shortly after that happened, you admitted that you had talked to Gimby Estrada or Itzamar Estrada that night. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember
Yes.
admitting that you had talked to her about trying to get your AK-47 back?
Yes, I remember that.
Okay. And that was the night of January 4th, correct?
Yes.
And do you remember denying that you had been drinking? That
I
night?
I was drinking, but energy drink. I mean, that's not like.
So, if she said you called her drunk asking for your AK-47, you deny that?
I wasn't drunk when I called her. 'Cause I
Or
remember
drinking alcohol? You didn't drink any alcohol the night of
the night
January
that
4th?
the night that I called her that I wanted the AK-47 back because my brother was locked up and I was gonna give her the truck back.
And just so I understand that whole situation with did you say your brother took the gun without your knowledge? Initially?
I thought I was asked if he had bought the gun for me, but I knew I gave it to him when I lent it to him.
Okay, so
mean,
that's why she had it, because you lent it to your brother?
Yes.
Okay, because earlier you said he had actually taken it without your permission.
I mean, I misunderstood what he says. So
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I misunderstood what he says.
You misunderstood what Mr. Sachs asked you?
Yes, sir.
But you didn't know where Mr. Estrada lived, did you?
I didn't know at the time.
And after, I think earlier you said that you may have spoke with Jonathan one time after the murders. Is that what you said earlier?
Yes.
Was that in person or on the phone?
I think on the phone.
Did you see him again?
After the murder? Yes, I seen him again because he wanted me to give him a ride to go get some weed.
Okay. So y'all went and got weed on another occasion
Yes, sir.
after the murders?
Yes, sir.
And that's what you told the police the night you got arrested on January 11th, correct?
Yes, sir.
Because you were arrested in the area of Colonial Drive, were you not?
Not exactly. I wasn't arrested there.
Okay. I believe the police actually asked you if you had been in the area of Colonial Drive the night you were arrested on January 11th. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
And then you said you had gone there to pick up Jonathan and Israel to buy some weed.
Yes.
Okay. after the March 25th interview, you met with investigators again on April 4th. And you met barefoot about this BB gun you had been saying you had, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you finally admitted that it wasn't a BB gun, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That was one of the things he wanted to clarify with you on that. And you also talked with Investigator Jarima, a female, for a good while on April 4th, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you remember telling her that actually Jonathan's mom would call the police on you if you came to the house,
Yes, sir.
and that she thought you were a bad person because of the way you dressed.
Yes,
Remember
sir.
talking to Investigator Dream about that? And do you remember that your brother sort of picked on you, and I'm talking about prior to December 4th, that your brother sort of picked on you and said you were soft, you were a punk,
Sir.
and you were trying to show that you were
Like, what you mean by that?
trying to prove to your brother that you weren't soft.
I mean, I really wasn't trying to prove. I mean, I just, no.
But is it true that he would pick on you,
Yeah,
say
he
you
would-
weren't tough enough?
He would pick on me and stuff, but like, it wasn't like that, like big altercation. I ain't make a big altercation about it.
So isn't that why you were aggressive on December 4th about the whole Sancho? Weren't you the aggressor in that whole incident?
No, sir.
Didn't you threaten to kill those people?
No, sir.
Did you ask when you went to the car, is Sancho, if the person in the car was Sancho? Do you remember?
I believe I did ask that, but I didn't threaten him that I was gonna kill him.
And you didn't point a gun at him either?
No. Well, it was visible, like I said. Pointed.
And you had no reason to know why Pablo and Sancho had a problem. Is that what you're saying? You knew nothing about that.
I don't know nothing about that.
So you had no reason to want to assault or shoot or kill Sancho. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
And in that conversation with Investigator Jarima, you gave her some details about what happened at the homicides, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Like that the door was easy to kick in.
That's what I had been told from a secondary source.
Okay. From where?
A secondary source.
And also you said that you told her that they shot the guy in the face or in the neck and then cleared the room.
Yes, sir.
Did you get that from a secondary source?
Yes,
as well?
sir.
What was that secondary source?
Israel.
And was all this in the ride back from Colonial Drive
Not all
to
the,
their house?
like, it was like a, we just had like a brief, conversation right there and there. Like right there, and then I just left, put the music up, and I ain't seen nothing afterwards. Till we got to the dirt path, that's when we said bye and stuff, and that's when Jonathan told me to take a good shower and forget all about it.
Let me back up. You're saying this is on January 5th.
Yes, sir.
After you hear all these gunshots, that you and Israel had a brief conversation.
It was
After
like between me, Jonathan, and Israel, like right when we got in the truck, right then and there. And then when we like got on stage, that's when I just put the music up and I would just
You got on old stage and what?
I put the music up, so like I just like didn't listen to nothing no more until we got to the dirt path. That's when I said bye and stuff, and they told me that Jonathan told me that to take a good shower and forget all about it.
And so during that little conversation, that's when you're saying they told you they shot the guy in the face or the neck,
Yes.
and they cleared the room,
Yes.
and they also told you, because you also told Investigator Dreama, did you not, that they shot the door and it went through the wall and almost hit a neighbor. You remember telling the investigator that?
I told her that he shot through a door so you can get in there and see, because he thought somebody was in there. So.
And all that was discussed in that brief time to get from the house to Old Stage Road.
Pretty much.
You also told her that that nothing was taken from the house, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
How did you know that?
Because they ain't come in with because I saw them come out the house and I ain't see them with nothing else in their hands, just a rifle and a handgun.
So that was never discussed. You just assumed that they hadn't taken anything.
Yes, sir.
They didn't have anything in their hands but guns?
The rifle and the handgun.
How about a mask?
The mask, that was when he got out. That's when he saw me and, he shot the gun when he was shocked. Then he took it off. That's when, he had the mask in his hand.
Okay. So because he didn't have anything but a gun when he walked out the door, you assumed they didn't take anything?
That's what I assumed.
Now, after that April 4th meeting with investigators, you and your attorney were able to get your bond reduced, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you actually got out of jail
Yes, sir.
on electronic house arrest, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what is electronic house arrest or electronic monitoring?
It's like a device on your leg where they can track wherever you are. GPS.
So that's a condition of your release, is that you wear that device?
Yes, sir.
Now, did there come a time when you cut that device off?
Yes, sir.
Why did you do that?
Because there was a sheriff waiting in my house and the mother of my child called the police because she said that she was mad at me, so she reported the car stolen. And I was like, she said there was a sheriff waiting for me at the house, so I was scared, so, cut it off, and because I feel like they was going to throw me back in jail and won't let me out this time.
When did this happen that you cut it off?
Like around June, July, around that time.
So how long were you out, basically kind of on the run without your device?
Probably about 2 months.
So you knew the police were looking for you, I take it?
Yes, sir.
And at some point, they caught up with you, didn't they?
Yes, sir.
And as a result, you resisted the officers, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
In fact, you tried to get the officer's gun away from him, didn't you?
I wasn't trying to go for the gun, but I was, hurt at the time because he was hurting me. And I was just trying to push him off me. And I guess I touched his firearm. He assumed that I was trying to grab for it.
And you currently have a charge pending against you for assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill a law enforcement officer, correct?
Yes, sir.
Among other assault charges on a law enforcement officer, correct? Several different charges for assault.
I thought it was, from my understanding, it was just like 1 or 2, something like that.
All right. So you were arrested then, and you've not been able to get out since then, correct?
Correct.
And after that, you also, that's when you were served a charge for accessory that you've talked about to the murders.
Yes, sir.
And you, as you said, you don't have any, there's no deal right now with the state, correct?
Correct.
And isn't it true that you're hoping your testimony is going to help you get a deal from the state?
I mean, I'm hoping.
And do you admit that in your phone that the police seized, you have pictures of yourself with guns?
Yes.
With shotguns, pistols, the AK-47 that you said you owned?
I remember AK-47. I took a picture with AK-47.
Okay. That's all the questions I have at this time, Your Honor.
Read it right.
Thank you. Mr. Reyes, you indicated that you cut that ankle bracelet off of your leg in June or July. What year are we talking about there?
2013.
Okay, and you said you've been in custody. You were on the run apparently for about 2 months after that and then got picked up. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you've been in custody since then?
Yes, sir.
You indicated that when you gave your that March statement to the investigators, my understanding is that this time you've been served with the assault warrant and you haven't made bond yet, but you go to speak with the investigator with your attorney. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
At that point, did you know any of the evidence from the murder case? Like, did you know about this statement that the defendant had made about you at that point?
My lawyer eventually mentioned it to me.
I'm sorry, he eventually mentioned it to you?
Like before I gave the first interview.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to know. Before you gave the interview, did he tell you that?
Yeah, he told me that Jonathan was trying to blame everything on me, saying that I murdered everything, that I did this and that, so I was like, that's ridiculous,
Was that true?
What's true, like?
Did you murder those people inside that house at 708 Colonial Drive?
No, sir.
Did you even go into 708 Colonial Drive?
I didn't even enter the house.
When did you call Itzamar to try and get your AK-47 back?
I don't recall the exact day or exact time, but I just know I called her and told her that I was gonna tell her to give me the AK back, and I'll give her my brother's truck to her. So like,
Was that before or after the murder had happened?
Like, I don't exactly know like what date, I just know it happened.
Again, I don't need an exact date. What I'm trying to figure out is this before the murder happened or after it happened? Do you know?
I don't like really recall like when.
Okay. Would it have been before you were, certainly I would think, is it before you were served with your assault charge? That put you in jail?
Uh-huh.
So you have to say
yes.
Okay. Tell me about the, you had said earlier that you were paid $30 for gas by the defendant after the murder. Is that correct?
I highly doubt it was after the murder. It was probably before, because I had financial trouble, so I had told him, you know, I needed some gas money, and from what I remember, now that I think of it, is that I put gas in the truck before, you know, everything happened.
That night you're talking about?
Yes.
And where did you drive from that night?
I'm from Newton Grove.
Well, how did that come about? How did y'all arrange for this kind of payment?
I mean, I just told him I didn't have gas money, so like he said, well, I'll give you gas money when you get here. So,
And did you get that gas money?
yes, sir.
Do you recall, when did you get that gas?
Like when I picked him up, I got the gas money, and then we went to the gas station, like on by the 40. On, I'm not sure which store, but it was by the 40 on the exit 312, 4042.
So does all this happen in between the time you pick them up and the time you go to Colonial Drive
Yes, sir.
on that same night?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how much did he give you for the gas?
About $30.
Okay. So basically he paid for the whole tank or most of the tank?
I mean, it was a truck, so it was just partial.
Okay. You were asked back at the December assault, when you were outside the driver's door and the other driver, El Morgesa, got out to confront you. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
When you were face to face with him, could you tell who was bigger? Were you bigger than he, or was he bigger than you?
He was bigger. I was about, from what I remember, I was about 125 pounds. He was way bigger.
You also indicated that you saw Israel stayed inside the truck, but fire a shot in his direction, but in the air. Did I hear
Yes.
that correctly?
Yes.
Explain to Stuart, what do you mean by in the air?
Like he shot toward the direction where Hamburguesa was at, but like he didn't shoot right at him. He shot like toward the direction though, like in the air though. Like he didn't like you know, try to shoot right at him. But he shot like in the air, you know, cause he was standing like in the truck. He wasn't touching the floor. He had his feet still in the truck, and he reached over the truck, you know, and you know, like so.
Okay. So was the gun pointed, so I'm trying to get an idea of what you're trying to say. Is the gun pointed at the direction where Mr. Hernandez was, or was the gun pointed straight up in the air?
Like at the direction where Hamburguesa was at,
But
but
just farther up?
yeah.
So that's what you're talking, like shooting over his head?
Probably like a little bit down, like not all the way up, but like little, you know, on the angle, sort of angle.
Kind of like I have here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you saw Israel do that, is that before or after the shots you talked about the defendant shooting?
That was after.
And how many shots did Israel shoot?
I don't know exactly how much shots, but I just know he shot a couple of shots.
It was more than one?
Yes.
You were asked earlier about trying to estimate the distance between you and the defendant during this December assault. And you said you weren't good with estimating. Let me ask it a different way. See how many steps it would have taken you to was when you fired those shots?
Probably about 6 steps.
We've talked a lot about your and their girlfriends and children and stuff. At the time of all this 2012 and January of 2013, did you have your own family?
Yes, sir.
Who was in your family?
Marilyn and Breeze and my son Jesus.
Okay. How old is Jesus?
He was 3 years old at the time, and he's right now 5.
And are they the ones who were living down in Newton Grove that you talked about?
Yes, sir. You
also said that, I thought I heard you say, please correct me if I'm wrong, that you talk to the defendant later about what you saw on the news. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Please tell us, what did y'all talk about? When you talked to him about this?
I talked about that. I saw the murder happening, and like, I just told him that, y'all didn't like actually give me exact, detail of what happened.
What did he say?
He told me when he got in the truck, all he told me was, that he got him, something like that. And I didn't ask no further questions. I just, I was shocked. I was like, did not smell gunpowder, so I was like, it's kind of.
Okay, you're talking about on January 5th as you're leaving the scene, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, did you say, or tell Mr. Cutler that you actually talked to the defendant later about what you saw on the news, when you saw the murder on the news?
I talked to him about, I told him what happened, but then he said he was going to change his phone and stuff like that. So
Who said they were going to change that?
Jonathan.
But did you talk about what had actually happened there in that house after you saw this?
I told him what I knew from the news. Yeah, so.
And then did he say anything back when you told him what you saw on the news?
I don't think so, because he's talking about that he was going to change his phone. So
Recross.
I don't know that, I don't recall you saying, John? Is it true that you talked to Jonathan after you saw something on the news about it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you already knew something bad had happened, right?
Yes, because I saw the news.
Oh, you didn't know anything bad had happened when you...
I didn't actually believe what happened, what they told me. I didn't actually believe they would actually do something like that. So I was in denial.
But Jonathan wouldn't talk to you about it, is what you're saying, when you called him?
He said he was going to change his phone, so he didn't talk about it.
Wait a minute, boy. So,
I think I will.
it happens. Do you want to re-ask the last question, or?
I'll move on.
Sorry.
So it's your testimony that your testimony today is that you got $30 from Jonathan the night of these murders.
Before it happened.
So you picked them up and he gave you 30 and you drove to the gas station?
Yes, sir.
So you drove all the way to I-40 to get gas?
Yes, sir.
Did you not know there were gas stations a mile or two away?
I wasn't thinking. I just went to the store that I liked.
You like, okay. And this is on January 4th.
Yes.
Have you ever told anyone before today that you went and got gas after you picked up Jonathan and Israel?
Not that I recall.
And isn't it true you told the police that you called Itzamar the night, January 4th, that night before the murders, and asked for the gun?
Like I said, I didn't know exactly what time, what day. I just know I did ask her for, because my brother was locked up, so I just felt like she shouldn't have it, that I should have it, because I'm the real owner. And I was going to tell her she can get the truck back, just give me what's mine,
And you mentioned your family, Marilyn. Is Marilyn the one that called the police and accused you of assault, stealing her car?
She didn't accuse me of assault. She accused me of larceny of motor vehicle.
Okay, I'm
But
sorry.
she was mad at me because it It was just some marital problems.
So that's the reason that you cut off your ankle bracelet.
Yeah, I mean, I was, she said I left because, I didn't want to, like, be around her when she was mad, so I left. And then she called the cops, and then called my phone and said the sheriff was on the phone talking to me, talking about that he's waiting for me at the house, just come back to the house. But I felt like it was a setup, so I just cut it off.
Had you stolen her car?
I didn't steal it.
So she was not telling the truth?
I mean, she was just mad at the moment, so I don't think she was, really thinking about what she was doing.
That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Anything else? Thank you, sir. You can step down. You can go back with the sheriff. You may call your next witness.
Thank you. The state will call Sergeant James Landmark.
So if you would, place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
You may proceed.
Good afternoon, sir. Would you please introduce yourself to this jury, tell them who you are and what you do for a living?
My name is Sergeant James Landmark. I work for the Wake County Sheriff's Office. Currently, I'm a sergeant with the Patrol Division.
How long have you been with the Wake County Sheriff's Office?
16 years.
Is that your entire time within law enforcement?
Yes.
Back in January of 2013, were you employed with the Wake County Sheriff's Department at that time? Sorry, with the Sheriff's Office. Was your assignment the same back then as it is now?
It was not.
What was your duty back in January of 2013?
I was Sergeant Special Response Team.
Could you explain to this jury what the Special Response Team is and what they do?
It's what we call the SWAT team. It's basically we execute search warrants for other divisions of our department, drugs and vice, or investigations, things like that, high-risk situations we get called for.
Back on January the 15th of 2013, were you on duty and in charge of the SRT unit that executed a search warrant at 165 Montesino Drive here within Wake County?
Yes, I was.
Explain to this jury how the SRT team, I guess the SRT, I guess I should say, handled that situation for that search warrant at that place at that time.
Basically, we handled it the same way we do pretty much every search warrant. We briefed at a location nearby, then we got in our SRT van, went to the house, and did what we call a dynamic entry on the house. Basically, if it's a high-risk search warrant, they like for us to do a dynamic entry, which is a quick entry on the house. That way, if there's people inside, we kind of take them by surprise so they don't have a chance to get any kind of weapons or anything like that.
And just before we get any further, was this considered a high-risk situation?
It was.
Is that mainly because of the nature of the charges involved or the crime involved?
Yes.
Okay. So what did you all do?
When we get to the driveway, we all get out of the van, we go up to the house, we kind of stack up, and we knock and announce, knock on the door, and identify ourselves, Sheriff's Office search warrant. We usually say it 2 or 3 times. If the door doesn't open in that amount of time, then we have a breacher that breaches the door open, and then we make entry into the house.
That basically was some kind of battering ram?
Yes.
All right. On this occasion, back on January the 15th of 2013, do you recall, was the door open for you, or did you all have to breach that door?
I don't recall, to be honest with you.
Okay. Where were you in relation to the stack? Because you said y'all stack up. Does that mean
Yes.
y'all are all in line?
Yes, I was the third one in the door.
Okay. What happens when y'all get inside the door?
Basically, once we make entry into the house, the first person that goes in has a ballistic shield in front of them in case we take on any kind of gunfire. Then the second 2 people, which is another deputy and then myself behind him, kind of split off in the first room to clear that room and make sure that there's nobody in there that poses a threat to the rest of the team coming in the house. We secure that room while the rest of the team moves on to the next rooms.
Okay. Tell us what you found when you got inside of this house on that day back in January of 2013.
Once we made entry into the house, we cleared the first room, and then the rest of the team kept on moving room to room, and then we fell back into the stack, and we ended up, Deputy Manville was on the shield, Deputy Knockway was in front of me, and then I was the third one, and we ended up at the very last room of the house, made entry into the last room. All three of us went in. There was one subject in the room that we secured with handcuffs, and then we finished clearing that room, cleared the bathroom. There was nobody in the bathroom, and then we found a locked closet.
What happened when you found this locked closet?
It was locked in a way we assumed somebody was inside, because I think it was locked from the inside or something like that, but we had to breach the door to get inside. We found a subject inside the closet standing on a chair.
Okay. What else did you find?
Right above the subject standing on the chair, there was a attic access, and the attic access was pushed off to the side, so it was open, and it made it look like the subject that was standing on the chair was getting ready to go up there. So we secured him, and because there was an open door up there, we needed to clear that as well. But normally we don't just stick our heads up there in case, there's a danger up there. So I made the call for someone to go out to our van, and we have a mirror on a pole that we can stick up in the attic and look around without sticking our heads up into any danger. While we were getting that, the three of us that were in the room just kept on challenging anybody that might have been up there to come down or announce themselves. And at first we didn't hear anything. Nobody said anything. And then finally, right as the mirror was getting there for us to search up there, a subject identified himself as being up there, and he came down.
So what did y'all do at that point?
I think Deputy Manville, I think he came down on his own. I don't recall any of us going up there, so I think he ended up coming down on his own.
Did you all secure that subject as well?
We did.
As far as you recall, did any of the sheriff's personnel on the SRT have to go up in the attic to clear that space?
Yeah, we usually go up and make sure there's nobody else up there. So I think that actually after he came down, I think Deputy Manville or Knockway, one of the two, went up into the attic and just made sure there was nobody else up there that was hiding.
And were y'all able to make that determination?
Yeah, we did not find anybody else.
Now, the two people that you found, the one that came down from the attic and the one standing on the chair, what did you do with them?
What we do is when we come across anybody in the house, we usually bring them all out to a central location, which I think in this case was the living room, set them on any kind of furniture that's there, and then when the investigators come in to read the search warrant, we will tell the investigators, okay, this subject was found here, this subject was found here. We tell the investigators where we find everybody.
Did you actually get the identity or any kind of identification from either of these two subjects that you found in the closet or the attic?
I did not.
Did you point out where you found those two subjects to the investigators doing the search warrant?
I did not personally, but I know one of our team members did.
And you were in charge of the SRT at that time?
Correct, and that's normal protocol.
Okay. Thanks, so I don't have anything further.
Cross-examination.
Officer Landmark, good afternoon. Do you remember how many people were in the residence?
I know there was at least 4, because I think there was also a woman in the living room, but I can't tell you exactly. There might have been more than that.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Redirect.
No, sir, that's all. Thank you.
Members of the jury, it's about 6 minutes till 5, and this is a good time for us to break for the afternoon, so I'm getting ready to release you until 9:30 tomorrow morning. Please remember to put your notebooks there in your chair. Please remember the rules, but before I remind you of the rules, you might remember when we started jury selection on Monday, I told you that we have some scheduling issues for tomorrow afternoon, so we are going to adjourn at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Rather than taking an early lunch and coming back and trying to squeeze more in, we'll just go right up to 1 o'clock. We will take the breaks as usual, but we won't take a we won't take a lunch break. I tell you that now so that you can plan, go by the office, do whatever you need to do tomorrow afternoon. Don't talk about this case among yourselves or allow anybody to talk about it in your presence. Don't form any opinions about anything that you've heard, and don't conduct any type of independent research or investigation. Please don't concern yourself with any media accounts that are out there. Again, your verdict must be based exclusively on the evidence that we provide for you here in the courtroom. So with that said, I'm going to release you all until tomorrow morning at 9:30, and if you'll reconvene in the jury room at that time, we'll pick up where we left off. If everybody will remain seated while the jury is excused. You can step down. Thank you. And you're excused.
Thank you.
Let the record reflect that all members of the jury have left the courtroom. Anything on behalf of the state, Mr. Sachs?
Yes, sir.
Or the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Very well.
Thank you.
We'll be adjourned until tomorrow morning at 9:30.